Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the TapIn Football podcast. I'm back on hosting duties this week, just like I have been for the whole quarantine period. I know you're not getting bored of my voice. I know you got bored of Stephen's voice. Gladly, he's here with me today, and also Dan's here with me as well. So it's the usual contingent, and we've also got a special guest this week. I didn't want to waste any time doing any sort of nonsense chit chat with Steve or Dan, so I thought let me just get straight to
I'm gonna speak though.
straight.
I'm gonna speak.
I thought let me just get straight to the guest. Let me
Can
just
you
get straight
stop
to the
putting
guest.
slander on my name, please? All right,
I'm just gonna get straight to the guest.
pivotal part of this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll not be toterated. You know, I might have to put some adverts out and feelers for some other podcasts.
Yeah. You contribute nothing.
Yeah, Tobi, obviously he's gotten so good at the hosting job. He's part-timing as a network help desk worker as well. On as well. So carry on, Tobi. Carry on.
Sorry, I've had to use different facilities this week because my MacBook's out of action. But back onto the notable guest that we have this week. So joining us from Colchester, player, coach, and an illustrious football career as well. A long football career as well. I'm not sure how you're managing to do it at 36, 37 when some people in this chat can't even run 5K in under 25 minutes. But
wait, Jamal, what's your 5K time? Do you have one? Do you have like a PB?
I think it's like 20 minutes, like 36 or something.
That's a mad thing.
Very
that's crazy. But well, Steve actually mentioned your name, but thank you for coming onto the platform, Jamal. For those who are listening, this is Jamal Campbell-Ryce, current Colchester United player / coach as well. So Jamal, thank you for coming on to the platform to share some football knowledge, insight, and some detail into your career with us. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, boys. I appreciate it.
It's brilliant. And that 5K time is impressive. A lot of people are going to listen to that and they're going to be thinking that is nuts, because I can tell you this for free. A lot of people have been struggling to get
at 37.
Yeah, you might get a few acts on Twitter asking for verification of that time.
Yeah, you know, I'm calling porkies already.
Because some of your compatriots have been.
I'm smelling hate as well.
Yeah, Steve can't even do 4 minutes in 20. I mean, Steve can't even do 4K in 20 minutes, let alone 5K.
Yeah, do you know what's mad? As I was processing his time, I just realized that I've done the 4K today in longer than he's done the whole 5K. So
exactly. So that's that. You're in pretty high company, Jamal. But so let's actually get into the nitty gritty of your football career. So let's actually start right where it began. So can you walk us through your journey into professional football? Because obviously, whereas we thought you started at Charlton, you can actually sort of set the record straight as to how that move sort of transpired.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually come into football quite late. I never started playing until I was like 14, 15. Never really had a passion for it until I got to that age and got scouted. Obviously, like I was young and quick. I was very quick. And I was playing for my borough, and for Harrow. I think I was playing against Brent actually, and a Millwall scout approached me, of whom I still talk to. Got a really good relationship. He's been like a focal point of my career, to be honest, always helping me along the way. And got me down for my first training session at Millwall, like Centre of Excellence in Sheen. Done one session, they signed me on schoolboy forms, and I was really excited. That was brilliant, because there was a lot of other boys at my school that were either at QPR, Wickham, or other illustrious clubs, and I was one. Like I said, I come into it quite late, and I was like one of the only ones that played football in the playground in the school team that weren't with a professional club. So signed my schoolboy forms, got offered YT forms at Millwall, which I signed, which I was delighted with. But 6 months into being at Millwall, Charlton come in for me and paid a fee for me, a nominal fee, but it's always nice to be bought. Yeah, and then ended up going going to Charlton, and it was probably the best thing that I could do, because it just, the learning that I got there from Charlton, and obviously there was a club that pushed their youngsters at the time. They had players like obviously Scott Parker coming through, Charlie McDonald, Kevin Nisbey, Paul Konchesky, John Fortune, Danny Shitu. So the list was pretty strong, and it was fantastic to go there and be a part of that, you know.
Jamal, no, that's interesting to hear. You said that I guess you didn't really have sort of like a clear line into football. You weren't thinking too heavily about having that as a career. So what I want to know, did you know you were a baller from like school days? Because you were saying you were playing from the borough. Obviously, you must have had some level of skill to be playing for the borough, and then obviously to be scouted. So what was it for you that kind of meant you didn't perhaps see your career going into football as a lot of people kind of do and focus on?
To be honest with you, like just being in the playground, especially in that primary school, is just to see everyone always used to say, "Oh, Jamal's the best," or "one of the best," or whatever. It was just fun and games for me in the playground, like kicking about with your mates and all the rest of it. Went into secondary school, and being quick, that's an attribute that every manager at a club wants in a player. Everybody wants like somebody who's quick and can run and all the rest of it. And that was one of my strongest attributes. And like I said, coming into the game quite late, as I got older, I realised that I did have something to offer, and I was as good as the other boys that have been scouted and all the rest of it. And going to like playing for my borough and my county, I realised that like I wasn't far off like the best of the best there. So for me, really, it was like a matter of time before I got picked up. Not saying it was a matter of time before I made it, because it's not as easy as that for everybody. But it was a matter of time before I got picked up. The form that I was in for my school, like I said, my borough and my county. So it was good.
Oh, wicked. Oh, sorry, go on, Dan.
I just had a question on. So obviously, you said that you were scouted by one of the Millwall scouts when you were playing for the borough. I was just wondering, does that type of scouting still happen like up to those age groups? Because obviously now you hear about young boys signing with professional clubs from as young as 7, 8, 9 years old, and you don't really see that many sort of getting picked up from school or local teams at age 14, 15, 16. So I was just wondering, is that sort of died now as football's come along?
Not at all. I think you can find a diamond in the rough at any age. There's loads of players and boys that like gone down the same path as me, not really been too interested for various reasons. Maybe they've not been interested in football or whatever. Might have had a tough background where can't get to football matches and all the rest of it. There's plenty of reasons, but for me, certainly, it was just like I wasn't one that was too fussed on it, that didn't really take it too seriously until like my middle teens, really. And then I was just lucky enough, like I said, to get picked up, and obviously, like the scout at the time, obviously was rubbing his hands like that I wasn't attached already with it.
And obviously, you've mentioned that you went from Millwall to Charlton fairly quickly, and you spoke on Kevin Lisby being there, but you also had like Chris Powell, Sean Bartlett, Jason Ewell. It's like quite a big contingent of black players there, and obviously, I don't want to delve too much into it, but Millwall perhaps not the friendliest of clubs at the time. How was it having that sort of switching environment, and did you find it was really kind of a family environment that sort of meted you at Charlton?
What you just said there is you've hit the nail on the head. Like when I went to Charlton straight away, like I felt the warmth of the club, and it was 100% a family club. Like everybody made you feel welcome. It's like you need a secretary, the director of football, like the academy manager. You speak to the manager. Like everybody there spoke to everyone. There was no like sections of the club that you couldn't go in and all the rest of it. It was a very, and still is a very well-run club. Like you just said there, there's quite a big ethnic like contingent there at Charlton. Obviously, being in South London and all the rest of it. I know Millwall are part of South London, but their history, for obvious reasons, is a little bit different to what Charlton's is. But yeah, Charlton had no problem. Like there was a ton of black players there when I played there, and there still is, and like there's black players coming through there every year, which is brilliant.
Yeah. So that's really good to hear with Charlton. Obviously, they have one of their most high-profile players now, Lyle Taylor. He's refusing to play football because obviously he believes that, well, technically there's only going to be 6-7 weeks left of the season, and I think his contract runs out at the end of the season, and he's lining up himself for like his last sort of final hurrah sort of move. What's your view on him refusing to play for Charlton right now? Do you think that he's justified in that decision, or do you think that he should honor his obligation to the club?
I don't really have any judgment on it, to be honest. I think like it's down to the player. I think, and that he was obviously running down his contract for a reason, because he wanted, like you just said, he wanted that big payday, that big move. And by the looks of it, this season, like I was looking at his stats earlier, like he's had a good year, and he's deserved his move. And like reading his comments, like I agree with what he's saying. He doesn't want to jeopardize like that one move over playing in a game, and like because that move and something like that can be life changing, and it could be swept away like just like that. So I think he's just looking after himself, like anybody would. And anybody that's played the game understands how ruthless football can be. And there's absolutely no loyalty in football, because I'll tell you this: if he didn't have such a good season and scoring all those goals, then Charlton probably wouldn't be wanting to keep him or extending his contract and all the rest of it. He probably wouldn't have a host of clubs after him. So it's a catch-22. It's like the boy's done well, let him go and chase his move, which he deserves. Like you can't ridicule somebody for having their point, and I thought he explained it really well. Spoke well of himself, and obviously the fans may be a little bit disappointed, but at the end of the day, they're not paying his bills.
Yeah, well said. So at Charlton as well, obviously, I think in terms of obviously one of the benefits, but also drawbacks of having such a sort of packed team is game time. So at the time they had so many options to choose from. Alan Kirby's had options to choose from, so you had to sort of go out on loan to actually get some minutes. Now you actually went on loan to Leyton Orient twice in your career. So what was it? I think I was going to ask, the first question I wanted to ask is what was it at Leyton Orient which sort of made you feel like this is a club that you can actually sort of go back to, and would you say that played a key part in your development as a football player?
Going to Leyton Orient turned a boy into a man for me. That's what made me realise that rubber stamp that, right, I'm good enough and I'm hungry enough to chase this dream of wanting to be a footballer. I actually went. It was like, obviously I signed a new contract, professional contract at Charlton. Like my first one. I think that was when I signed my first one. And the club like sent me to Leyton Orient. It was like a trial to go on loan. So I was only like, I think I just turned 17, and it was pre-season. Went there for a couple of days, and I played a game, the last pre-season game before the season started, and there was 2 or 3 other right wingers that they brought in on trial for this loan or whatever. And I come in, and the last game was against West Ham at Brisbane Road at the stadium. Obviously, everybody knows the Leyton Orient and West Ham rivalry and history and all the rest of it. They hate each other. Played in that game, and I remember ripping Anton Ferdinand to shreds. And I scored a screamer from about 25 yards, and the rest is history. The fans went crazy, and everybody went away from that game remembering me, and they signed me on a 3-month loan like the next day or the day after, and I had a very successful loan period. But that for me that really turned me from a boy into a man.
Yeah. You spoke about obviously that goal, and then you spoke a bit about Lau Taylor and how cruel football can be, or how like quite clear cut it can be in terms of you're either doing the business or you're not. How have you found your experiences at various clubs, and how have you found the sort of business side of football over the course of your playing career, knowing that I guess when you're perhaps like in the Premier League, fans can perhaps think of football players as being greedy and they're all on high wages, whereas as you get, I guess, sort of lower down the fields, you're really trying to look after yourself and your family, and perhaps have less security than you would do in the Premier League. How have you found the sort of experience as a footballer, mentally and even emotionally as well?
It comes with the territory, don't it? Obviously, like fans, no matter if you're playing at Man City or if you're playing at Macclesfield, fans are very fickle, and the first thing that every club I've been at anyway, first thing that fans demand is hard work. They want to see that the players that they got are grafting for the team and all the rest of it. Don't get me wrong, fans also want to see flair and good football and skill and speed and all the rest of it. But if the fans see that you're grafting for your team, then more often than not, then you're going to be in their good books. So I've played with some players with some sensational ability, but walk around and give the ball away and act like they don't care, and fans hate them they hate their guts, but they don't care about how much ability they got. So like I think it's like in all walks of life really. If people see that you're hungry and you're grafting and all the rest of it, they'll be receptive to you. If you don't, then you really need to be that special player.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of questions as well. I think firstly, obviously you're I think you just turned 37 in the past year. So you're coming towards sort of the end of your I guess footballing career. I'm
at the end, buddy. I'm at the
end. and transitioning into that role as a coach, like, did you always know that you wanted to stay in the game and become a coach as well? And then also linked to that, so Steve mentioned that whole long list of players that you started out with at Charlton. You know, there's quite a few of you from that crop that are coaches now. So I'm thinking of Scott Parker, Jason Ewell being amongst them. So was there anything about that particular set of players that, you know, sort of something inspired you guys together to, you know, stay on in the game and stay on as coaches?
If you'd have asked me a year ago, if I wanted to be a coach, last season I was at Stevenage. You know, I'm currently on my A license, doing my A license now, but I've done my B license a couple of years ago, and I absolutely hated it. I've done my B license in Northern Ireland. I was away for a week. Come away, I was actually meant to stay for another week and stay on my A license, but I just booked a flight and flew home. I was just like, I can't do another week of that. It was like pulling teeth. I hated it. I hated it. It's almost like, remember when, I'm sure you boys drive, remember when you was doing your driving lessons and all the rest of it, and the instructor's telling you to drive this way, but you know in your head that you wouldn't drive that way. Yeah. It's almost like the way that they coach you to be a coach. Didn't enjoy it. Enjoyed the piss up part, but the actual learning to be a coach part, I just thought it was too regimental, and that's just not how football is. I suppose they got a job, but for me, I just thought, nah, it's not for me. And like I said, up to a year ago when I was at Stevenage and playing, and all the boys obviously were like jamming, like you'll be brilliant, like going into coach. You've got 20 plus years of playing under your belt and that, all your experience. I was like, nah, it's not for me. And I literally fell into this role at Colchester. I got a phone call at the end of my contract at Stevenage, out of the blue, would I fancy a player coach role? And I thought, why not? I'll give it a spin. So But yeah, going back to your point, if I knew, like, absolutely not. There was nothing in me to say that I want to be a coach. But now, like, I've got the buzz for it. I think it's just the buzz of seeing younger players, hungry players with the ability and the passion to want to make it and all the rest of it, and trying to give them that extra. Might be an extra 1% or 2%. That extra 1% or 2% can get them over the line to go and have a long, illustrious career.
That's really good. I actually wanted to ask a question again. So I think we're going to sort of dip back and forth from past to present. So, so just picking off one of the situations in your career as well. How was it to be part of two sides to be promoted in the same season? Because I remember I read one of your interviews at the time. I think you did like an article for it was either the Daily Mail. I can't remember who covered it, but because obviously you were involved with you were signed to Rotherham, I think, but you went on loan to Southend. But then there was an issue with Southend and Rotherham, which meant you then played for Colchester. So at the end of that season, Colchester and Southend got promoted, and you got two medals. So how was that then?
So going all the way back to the beginning, ended up signed for Rotherham from Charlton. I still had like 2 years or 3 years left on my contract at Charlton, but I just couldn't bear to face another day playing reserve football and all the rest of it. Rotherham come in for me off the back of a successful loan spell at Chesterfield. Ended up signing for Rotherham. That was when they was in the Championship under Ronnie Moore. Went there obviously knowing I knew, well, it was bottom of the league, like rock bottom. But I just wanted to showcase what I was all about and prove that I was good enough to go and play in the Championship and all the rest of it. Done that, got relegated. I got Young Player of the Year after only being there for half a season. But like, I just wanted to go back down south, and my old manager, going back again to your original question, one of your original questions about Leyton Orient.
Paul Brush.
Yeah. He was my assistant manager at Southend, and he was hugely influential in getting me to Southend. And once I knew that there was interest, I chased that. They couldn't get the deal done. Rotherham and Southend ended up going on loan for half a season with a view to buy. Everything was agreed. Come January, I'll be honest, like my loan spell at Southend, that first half of the season, I wasn't great. I was in and out of the team. Couldn't find my form for whatever reason. That happens in football. And then come January, like the two sides couldn't agree on the fee, and I was like in limbo. Rotherham was saying, for me to go back, but I didn't want to go back, so I was still training at Southend, but I weren't playing their games, and this went on for like 2-3 weeks or whatever. And I just randomly got a phone call from my agent saying that Colchester were coming for me. So that happened like within a day. Ended up, instead of carrying on at Southend, where I'd like made new friends and all the rest of it, ended up going to Colchester, another new dressing room. What was funny was that both sides were flying in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mad. So it was almost like I was playing for Colchester, running in after the game and checking the Southend score. And like and their arch rivals, it was very strange. So anyway, finished the season at Colchester, got promotion. Southend got promotion. Southend finished as champions. And everyone always seems to think that like I went on 2 open top bus tours, but ended up the deal with Southend ended up getting agreed. So agreed to sign for Southend. Done that, so just went on their open top bus tour. I got my 2 medals though, so got my need them medals. That reminds me, I need to go downstairs and dust them off. Give them a show.
Trophies, man. That's a story and a half. From because you obviously Colchester and Southend, they're like they're the only 2 Essex clubs I know that have like teams. I'm not sure if there are any other clubs. I can't think of any other clubs. But what was it like then, from a fan's point of view? Obviously, you've played for Southend. You've then gone on Colchester on loan. Did the fans sort of warm to you when you played, or was it a bit hostile?
No, not really. And I think, like I said, if obviously the two clubs don't really like each other, but like from fans see that you're hungry and you're passionate and all the rest of it, and really all you got to do is run around and kick people. Like they'll take you, and I've got little man syndrome, and like I've got that tenacious side of me. So yeah, the fans took to me, and obviously it was pretty easy because Colchester were like obviously fighting for second place. So like more often than not, we was winning games. So it made that spell a lot easier than what it could have been.
And then before we actually move on to sort of the present and some of your stints at the other clubs as well, because you obviously mentioned that you went to Rotherham, who were bottom of the Championship, and by all accounts it was just showing the best of your abilities, really and truly. But was there any what was the difference in terms of playing styles and tactics then in comparison to Rotherham, and then you had Colchester and Southend? What was the message from the managers at the time then?
At Southend, don't know if you remember Steve Tilson.
No, I can't remember him.
Yeah, he was the manager and Paul Brush was the assistant. But like it was unbelievable what first of all they acquired a very, very good squad. A very, very good squad of players. Like there was no egos or anything. And we just saw, and they didn't do anything special. There was we done keep balls and 5-0s every day, maybe crossing and finishing. And like if you ask any player like what they want to do in a training session is keep balls and 5-a-sides, and maybe with a bit of crossing and finishing at the end of the session. Now obviously there's a lot more tactical based sessions and all the rest of it, but that's all we've done, and he got everybody on side and everybody bought into what we did, and we had a fantastic season. We had some very good players. We had Freddie Eastwood, so like everything he touched flew into the back of the net. Mark Gower, don't know if you remember him, a winger, very good technical player. Kevin Mayer, the captain. Effie Soji, he was a hard man. We just had all the right ingredients, and we had the balance, which is another important thing. And going to Colchester, under Phil Parkinson, don't know if you know much about Parky, but he's very, very route one. He makes no secret of it. He wants his teams to be solid, very defensive minded. Those who want to concede a lot of goals. And we was lucky enough to have Chris Iwaluma and Jamie Curran up front to score goals, and I think they must have scored like between 18 and 20 goals each between them, so like which helped. So it was two very contrasting styles at Southend and Colchester, but both got the job done.
And then just to add to that point, is there a particular style that you think suited you better, or that you think you preferred playing as a winger?
Just kicking people, isn't it?
That's me in my late 30s. That I've had to, because my legs are gone now. I've had to revert to being a centre midfielder that sits and hurts people instead of being that out and out wide that embarrasses people. But obviously at Southend under Tilly and Brushy, loved playing a good football and obviously getting the ball out to me and all the rest of it, and it was attractive. But at the same time, being at Colchester, it was equally as effective, because although we played back to front quite a bit, we had big Chris Iwaluma who was like 6'6", so could just lump up to him and he'd just flick it down to you. So you're still getting the ball, but just in different ways. So I'm not really fussed as long as they give me the ball and then I can go and do my stuff.
So obviously now you're doing a bit of coaching with younger players as well, and we've seen a lot of players in some of the lower leagues kind of move up the leagues and ply their trade in the Premier League. I think in the last few days, don't know how true it is, but Man United got linked with Ricky J. Jones. I don't know too much about him, but I just wanted to get your perspective. If there were a few players that you kind of saw in and around League Two, League One that you thought, right, these kids are actually have actually got potential to play in the Premier League. Are there any sort of players that you've kind of saw your or set your eyes on and thought, right, they're going right to the top? That perhaps people
at Colchester.
At Colchester or wider than that.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously being a part of the 23s staff this season, ourselves at Colchester, we've got a very good nucleus of young players. I think the thing is, you'll go to any club and you'll see a variety of players with different talents and strengths and weaknesses and all the rest of it. And what it's all about is identifying, are they going to be good enough? Can they hack it for the first team? But ultimately, these players, everyone needs a chance. I don't know if you boys played and all the rest of it. And if you did play, or like myself, for at Charlton, for example, when I was at Charlton, I made I think it was 4 or 5 appearances or whatever. But Curbs didn't really give me that opportunity. He didn't really trust me to put me in and say, go on, sink or swim. It was like, and to be fair, I was impatient. But now with the kids, it's almost like you can look at Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
Klopp liked him. I watched an interview on Klopp, and he spoke about him, and the way he spoke about him, he was just like, I know this boy's got everything. He's got everything in his locker to go and be a top player. But so many managers have had players like Trent, but not given them the opportunity. Leon Knight. I was speaking to one of my pals, Craig Rocastle, the other day when he was at Chelsea with 90, and he was like, he was the best, but Ranieri just wouldn't put him in. So all these players, you can go to every single club and you'd be like, why isn't this boy in the first team? Why isn't that boy in the first team? And it's literally all about whose face fits and who the manager likes and wants, and just being given that one opportunity. You just need that opportunity and to take it, and then the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
As a coach though, as well, like, do you have any influence then on, sort of promoting some of these under 23s into the first team? So like, say for instance, there were 1 or 2 that you were like certain were ready, but the manager wasn't necessarily giving them a fair crack at it. Would you then like go to them and sort of like plead their case a little bit and say, I really think you should be giving this guy more of an opportunity?
100%. Like we can give our input, and like there was a player this year, I won't mention his name, that I was singing his praises all year long. For me, he's got every attribute ready for first team, and I'd put his name to any club. Like all my friends at clubs that I know, I'd tell him to take a punt on. But for some reason, the first team manager at Colchester just wasn't having him, and that's just, and this is the world. It's all about opinions, isn't it? Doesn't make your opinion right and my opinion wrong, or your opinion wrong and my opinion right. The manager just wasn't having him, and this is what it's all about. At the end of the day, I can put any one of you to the first team manager. If he's not having him, I don't think he's ready. And he is the first team manager, so you know what I mean.
Yeah, so yeah, it's fair enough. Obviously, they have the final say, really. But what is a day in the life of a player / coach then? Because how does that affect sort of your mindset? Because obviously, are you still is it a case of you sort of training with the first team and then doing your coaching duties? How does it work? How do you balance both roles effectively then?
Go home very tired. That's how. Obviously, like I said at the beginning of the interview, like I leave at the crack of dawn. I get in earlier to like miss the traffic. I go in the gym for an hour, chuck some weight about. Then it's all like from about 8:30 planning sessions and all the rest of it. Then it's all about whether I'm going to join in the session. More like say like they've been good with me this year. I'll join in 2 or 3 times a week, plus there's games as well. And in the afternoon, it's like obviously delivering sessions and coaching. So it is difficult, it's tiring, and when I get home, I'm shattered. And it's been different. It's been an eye opener for me. It's almost like I was saying to a couple of my pals the other day. I was like, this year was like I've entered the real world, like leaving at crack of dawn and getting home when it's dark again.
Yeah.
Whereas being a footballer for 20 years, I've like just leave the house at like 8:30 with my wash bag under my arm, getting to training like 9, 9:30, and I'm back in the car by 12:30, with the rest of the day all to myself. So it's different, but it's enjoyable as well.
That's yeah, fair enough then. On the fatigue involved then. So at the start we were talking about your 5K time as well. So you've obviously been playing, like you said, for 20 years. You've had spells at Bristol City, Notts County, Barnsley, Sheffield United. What would you say was sort of? I know you've mentioned your time at Leyton Orient is the time where you sort of changed from a boy to a man. But at which clubs would you say that, you know what? Yeah, like I'm the standout player. I was one of the best players in this team, because I know you had like prolific spells at like Sheffield United, Barnsley, etc. So, which club would you say you made your most impact in, and why?
That's a good question. I've had spells at all of them where, like, okay, for example, I think it was our second season. Was it the first season? I think it was my second. I think it was the first season, and no, that's a lie. It was the second season when I got moved into central midfield, and we got to the semi-final of the FA Cup, lost to Cardiff, and then I remember we was playing. That was on a Sunday, and we played. We had Watford at Vicarage Road, and we was like in the bottom 3, and they was like fighting for promotion. And I've been playing out wide all season. I think I scored 12 goals at that season. And the gaffer like just named the team. We had named three wide players. So we're all sitting there scratching our heads, thinking, what's going on? So he's come up to me and was like, "Oh, you're centre mid today." I was like, "What?" Never played there before. And he was like, "You're our best player, our best ball handler, our best carrier of the ball, our most skillful. Like, go in there and dictate the game." We actually went to Vicarage Road and beat top of the league. I think it was 3-1 or 3-2, and it should have been more. Like, I had the game of my life, but there was a period at Barnsley for about a year and a half where I was on fire. Like, Reading actually put in a 1.2 million bid for me. And back then, that was good money. Considering Barnsley, I think they only bought me for like 60 grand or whatever. Like, Reading put in like over $1 million plus for me. Obviously, Barnsley didn't let me go, which was devastating. But there was that time. Notts County, I had a solid 2 years there. Off the back of that, I got my move to Sheffield United. Bristol City, like Bristol City was probably my favourite club, as in terms of the location. Like, don't know if any of you have been there. Fantastic.
I've heard it's brilliant.
Oh, like beautiful city, wicked, lovely to like raise kids and all the rest of it, clean and all the rest of it. And we got a great fan base, fantastic club. The first 6 months I was very good, and then almost took my foot off the pedal and just enjoyed the city rather than the club. And I was getting involved in going out and all the rest of it, as you do. So I had like 2.5 years there, and well, I probably had 1.5 years there where I let myself down. And then Sheffield United, I had a very good first year. Second year, the manager didn't fancy me, but that's football. But like, I can honestly say, hand on heart, at every club I've always left the club with the fans obviously always respecting me and rating me, and for me that was always good enough.
Because your second season at Sheffield United, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was Nigel Atkins, right? Yeah, so because we had Kevin Stewart on the podcast a week and a bit ago, and he also said as well, for some reason or another, Nigel Atkins didn't take a fancy to him. Nigel Atkins has never struck me as this guy who sort of just discards players like that as well. But what do you think it was that he sort of didn't sort of fancy about you then?
I have no idea. I honestly couldn't tell you. At the beginning of the season, I was in and out. Do you know what it is though? Like Sheffield United is a club of high expectancy. The fans, this was in League One. League One was getting 25,000 every week. Like travelling fans is like 7,000 travelling fans every week. So the expectancy was unbelievable, and we were very inconsistent. So therefore, the team was inconsistent. So you chop in and out of the team and blah blah blah. But when we went on a couple of runs where we was winning and the team were doing well, he stuck with that team, which is fair enough. But when the team wasn't doing well, he'd always revert back to the team that was doing well. So that was a tough year under him mentally, because I thought I should have played. But every manager has their preferred players and all the rest of it. It's like anything. If you're a manager, if you've got 11 players to pick, you're going to pick the players that you think are the best, and then you've got another 7 or 8 players that are going to be knocking on your door. It's difficult to keep those 7 or 8 happy, but it's the role of a manager, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had a question, just to step away from club football for a second. So you've been capped 18 times by Jamaica as well. I was just wondering, what was that experience like? You know, sort of playing international football, and did you see yourself representing, you know, Jamaica at some point during your playing career, and how did that come about?
First of all, it was like probably the biggest honour in my career. It was like obviously representing the country. I don't think there's a bigger accolade that you can have. When I was younger, when I was at Charlton, I had a spell when I was doing really well. I think it was the England under-19s. They were sniffing around me for a while, and out of the blue, I just got like an email saying that I'd been called up for Jamaica first team. Obviously, Kevin Lisby had been in and around the squad, so that's something that we'd spoken about, and something that I'd obviously love to have on my CV and be a part of. But never thought that it would happen, and like out of the blue it happened, and honestly it's probably like the best thing that I've ever done. I've been to some great countries, played against some unbelievable players, and it was a great experience.
Who would you say is like the best player that you played against? And
oh god, I played against so many. I played against. I remember when we played against England, and they beat us. I think it was 7-1 or something at Old Trafford. And I was never really. Obviously, I rated him, but I was never really a massive Frank Lampard fan. Always thought Gerrard was the better one, and all the rest. I still do. But
agreed.
But that day, watching, like, playing against Frank Lampard and seeing him up close and personal, being on the same pitch as him, like just his touch and his awareness and all these things that like you never see in, like, when you're watching it on the TV, because you might be on your phone. And I played against Ghana. Oh God, what was his name? The centre midfielder, Appiah.
Appiah, yeah.
Oh my good God, what a player he was, man. The calves the size of your head. I swear to God, like, unbelievable football player. And I played against Ecuador, like just so many of them South American teams, like just go play against them. I always like gave a good account of myself, like I've torn up many a fullback. But some of the players that I played against, like, yeah, sometimes you're just in awe of some of the players, and it's a great experience.
That's good. It seems your recurring theme is just destroying fullbacks. I think you get a real kick out of it.
I made a 20-year career out of it, mate. Like, the archives are silly, mate. They're silly.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Your international career sounds fantastic, to be honest. I think now I just want to bring it back to sort of your club career. So um, before we actually get into sort of this season, coronavirus, Colchester, how I know obviously you mentioned that your day starts early and it finishes late, and you have the training sessions. But how does someone actually maintain peak fitness as you go? As you progress into your career, because obviously you said it, you've been in the football career for 20 years, but surely there are things that you were doing in training at 20 years old, 21 years old, that you've sort of had to curb and sort of change or adapt to the change that your body's had over the years. I just wanted to find out really.
Yeah, 100%. Like I remember. You remember Jordan Stewart,
Jordan Stewart,
left back, Watford, like mixed race, bald head, Leicester, Watford, was it Birmingham as well? Anyway,
the name rings a bell.
yeah, and I remember I was at Notts County with him, and he was a couple of years older than me, and he was like, as soon as you hit 30, everything just starts hurting. And I was like, nah, it can't be that bad. And he was like, listen to me, as soon as you hit 30, everything starts hurting. Mate, as soon as I hit 30, everything started hurting. All the niggly injuries and all the rest of it, and I just realized that I can't. Obviously, I'm still as quick. I didn't just lose my pace just like that, but it's the recovery. Like after games, like instead of taking me being sore for 10 to 12 hours, I'm sore for 24 to 48 hours. All the rest of it, and I'm having to eat better. I can't just finish a game and go out on the piss with my boys and blah 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 and do all the late nights. I had to change my diet like dramatically, and that was a massive thing for me. And obviously, like when I went to Barnet at 34, I had a couple of years playing centre mid at Barnsley, but my manager loved me. But then it wasn't, and then up until I went to Barnet when at 34, I've been back playing on the wing. And then it was at Barnet, like my manager really looked after me, and like playing in the centre of the park just saved my legs a little bit more and just enabled me to add another like 2 or 3 years onto my career. But it's been tough because like all my career I was just this out and out wide player, right winger, left winger. I used to just line up fullbacks and just smoke them. And then the legs don't allow you to do that anymore, and it's lining up fullbacks are not necessarily smoking, and now it was like giving them the chop. So and then the chop slows down, and you have to just go into the middle of the park and snap people. So I've had to adjust, man. I've had to adjust.
Okay. Gotta love it. Okay, so back on Colchester now. So let's just put sort of the coach hat on then. So we actually had a podcast with Ollie Holt probably about I'd say maybe 6-7 months ago, where we were discussing the Rooney rule in football, and we were discussing sort of like Sol Campbell and whether sort of black pros are given the sort of the right or clear path into sort of coaching and obviously management as well. So do you think that in the role that you've been given now, do you think that was a case of you benefiting from the Rooney rule? And do you think, and I also wanted to understand what your view is on the rule itself. Should it be a case of clubs having to sort of select from a BAME specific pool, or should it just be a case of the actual football industry just accepting and just being more inclusive towards sort of black pros?
Again, this is a good question. A question I've answered quite a bit in the last year. It's a tricky one for me. Like if you look over like donkey's years, like black coaches have complained about not being given that opportunity and been overlooked, and because of the colour of your skin, race, whatever. And now this BAME thing's come in, people still complain that like don't want to be hired just because like giving black coaches an opportunity. Like you almost can't win. For me, like if it takes that for me to go and showcase myself as a good coach, then I'll use it. I'll use every opportunity I've got, because if people are saying in the world that we get overlooked and all the rest of it, but there's a platform for us to not get overlooked and for it in, then like I'd rather be like hired on being a good coach rather than being a black coach. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be, oh yeah, we need to like give him a job because he's black. No, like give me a job because I'm a good coach. Like the same way you pay me as a footballer because I'm a good footballer. You're not going to play me as a footballer because I'm black. You know what I mean? But the thing is, like I said, I've heard so many different contrasting interviews over the last year, especially, and done interviews on it, and some high-profile players have put their thoughts into place on what they think about the Bain thing and all the rest of it. And I just think it's an opportunity for us to just go and take advantage of it. And if something's in place for me to go and use, then I'll be a fool not to utilize that. Like, why would I complain? Oh, there's no jobs and blah blah blah. We're not getting hired. We're getting overlooked and not getting hired because we're black. Well, now there is something in there now for them to help us, and then it's up to us to go and showcase that we are good at what we say we are good at. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. And I think sort of the last question which I wanted to ask is just the handling of League One and League Two in light of coronavirus. So obviously the proposed sort of plans are for the season to be scrapped, and I think obviously the League Two clubs are unanimous in that point of view. And then playoffs between, I think it's the fourth between fourth and sixth or seventh or eighth spots. I can't remember the spots in total. But what was your view on that decision? And were you as a coach, were you consulted on some of the discussions that Colchester were having with the EFL?
No. That was like the chairman and the director, and obviously the first team manager. But so, like, obviously it was done on a points per game total, which because we're actually not in, like, if you look at the table now, we're just outside the playoffs, but it goes on points per game total.
Points per game,
yeah, that's why we managed to sneak in, which is obviously great for the football club. But it's a weird one, really, for me. I just don't know how they come to that conclusion and all the rest of it, but I'm just a small fish in all of this. I just let them get on with it. But yeah, with obviously COVID, this pandemic is not only football, it's killed like the whole nation. It's killing the whole world. It's been a dreadful thing that we've all had to endure and all the rest of it. And this year for sure will go down in history. Hopefully everything's up on the way back up and then straight and narrow, and hopefully things can start going back to normal pretty soon. But yeah, definitely, it's definitely put a snag in everything what's been going on in sport and life in general.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually it for me. I don't think I have any more questions. Dan, Steve, do you have any other questions you wanted to ask? Jamal, get them in while they're hot.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just want to say thanks for coming on the platform, man. That was really insightful. Yeah, we'll be glad to have you on again in the future.
Yeah.
No problem. I won't come on if you're wearing that shirt. I promise you that.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it quiet about your allegiances, Jamal, because if I mention it, these are all saying all you do is talk about Spurs. All you do is talk about Spurs.
What? Right. So his top's all right, yeah, but mine's not.
I'm a Spurs fan myself.
Exactly.
I
So
thought
there you go. Then.
Footballers don't have allegiances to clubs like that, you know. Like,
Who told you that?
They're my team. They annoy me, but they're my team. But yeah, if you ever want to do an interview like that, just wear a plain white tee, mate.
I think I'm gonna wear a home kit next time. Yeah.
Listen, Jamal, it's been a pleasure having you on, and if you're still listening as well, to the public, that is. Make sure to follow us on TapIn Football as well, Jamal. I think I'm not sure if you're on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm not sure if you're still down with the kids.
I'm old. That I leave that stuff to younger than me.
Okay, it was a pleasure having you on, and thank you all for listening as well. And we'll be back soon. Cheers.
Top man, cheers, boys.
Bye.
Thank you.